What's up, everyone? Just hopping on right now. Let me know if you could hear. I got external mic connected. Let me know if you could hear me on that microphone right now. Or if it's any better. Sometimes I don't know if like the built-in mic is better than some of these like external ones. Okay, I'm gonna try to unplug it. Let me know if this sounds any. Okay, so now this is just going with the iPhone mic. So which one sounds better, this one or the external one? Or hopefully I didn't mess it up. Nice, okay. Okay, cool. All right, well, yeah, I've been trying to like use higher quality stuff. I usually just end up recording through like the native app and then just the iPhone camera and mic, but I've got like other equipment, but I've been trying to use it. Let's see, what would it take for you to go back to a startup? What it would take would be, it would have to be like an interesting startup. It'd have to be a position with, you know, a good amount of equity. Scope of role would be important, but yeah, I think at this point for me to go back to a startup, I would much rather start my own startup at this point, as opposed to leaving a comfortable position at one of the big tech companies. Somebody needs to take my phone. They do. What do you think about command the conversation methodology? You know, I haven't command the conversation methodology. I haven't heard of that one. I'll check it out though. Or I probably have, but there's a lot of them out there. Best advice for someone about to start as an SDR: know exactly how your performance is getting measured and try to like be at the top. Goal should be to get promoted as quickly as possible out of SDR. Ideally 12 to 18 months. How many years of experience do I have? I graduated my undergrad in 2013, started in tech support in 2014, moved into sales 2015, then I've been in sales and sales engineering since then. What do I do on my day-to-day basis in my role at AWS? So my role, I'm in global strategic accounts. I only manage 2 accounts, so my day-to-day varies quite a bit. Sometimes I'm traveling for conferences or for customer meetings. Right now, it's a lot of 2022 account planning. And then also I have like follow-up meetings that I'm setting up from reInvent, which happened fairly recently. Let me turn this down a little bit. Where should you be looking to move? Where are you moving from? So, I mean, there's a lot of good choices for moving. I prefer somewhere warm. So, Bay Area, San Diego, Boomi. Actually, there are 2 people that I connected with at reInvent. They're SDRs based out of San Diego. They work at Boomi, but almost all the positions are remote right now. First getting in payroll software sales since leaving the nonprofit world, it's a grind. Yeah, the entry-level roles are a bit of a grind. That's just kind of how it works, I guess. But it gets easier. Interview tips for AWS SDR: know the leadership principles. All the questions are going to be based around that, basically. You're an AE with 40K base in Austin, Texas. What's the next step for you? Get a higher level position. In Austin, Texas, if you can move up to mid-market enterprise, you should be able to easily get 120K base. So focus on closing bigger deals, complex deals. Internal promotion to AE or external position. If you can, I always almost recommend getting promoted internally to an AE first. It's usually a lot harder to get an external AE position as an SDR without having closing experience. Just landed SDR with Heartland Payment Pros. Awesome, man. Cisco's not bad for a place to start. How do you pick ops to go after and not to go after? A lot of it just comes from experience. Thoughts on public sector software sales? I haven't done public sector, although I have colleagues that have been in that space. It's different than commercial. More red tape. Deals are a little bit slower. How is ad tech transferable to SaaS? I mean, there's a lot of SaaS software that's related to ad tech, so that's where you would transfer it. What's my OTE? It's about 300. 2 accounts. How often do you sell or renew? So in cloud, it's consumption based, so they don't really separate new accounts or renewals. I get paid basically on all of the cloud spend that these 2 accounts do, and this is pretty typical at any other cloud company. So you kind of end up doing both roles. How does sales engineering differ from regular sales? Trying to get more and more into that. So sales engineering is you work very closely with the sales rep, but there's a more of a technical focus. You're kind of like the technical expert. You do a lot of like the technical deep dives with the customers. You do the proof of concepts. You'll do demonstrations, sometimes presentations. I've been a sales engineer twice, and actually Pre-Sales Academy, they're an interesting program. They're in my bio. They're actually just closing up their applications for their January cohort for this Friday, and it'll be starting in January. So check that out if you're interested. Do you ask for promotion from SDR to AE? Yes, you should always make your career tips clear or career aspirations clear, because not every SDR wants to become an AE. Oh, lots of questions. What's the typical commission percentage for enterprise AE? It depends on the size of your quota. Typical quota for enterprise AE is 2 to 3 million, and you'll either be on a 200K or 300K OTE within that range. So you just gotta adjust the percentage based on that. At what age do you think you can reach your maximum earning potential? It depends how quickly you can move up. So I'm like pretty high level at Amazon right now. Just turned 31. But max earning potential, it kind of depends on like, do you want to start your own company? That's where you're gonna make the most earning potential. And the max age, I don't know if that really exists. But working within like the corporate ladder, getting to like a level 6 or level 7, that's kind of like where things cap out. And if you do things well, you can kind of get to that at age 30, 30 to 35, maybe that's when it would kind of cap out. And that's assuming you don't move up the ladder even further. These enterprise lists, yeah, these are enterprise roles. This is a list from RepView. So RepView, they're like Glassdoor, but for tech sales compensation data. So this was enterprise sales organizations within different companies, and it's sorted by what are the top earners, what do they report earning. So you have your base salary, so 125 to 150K. It's pretty standard for enterprise software sales. OTE, on target earnings, this is how much you would earn if you got 100% of your quota. Usually it's a 50-50 split. So if you have a 280K OTE, 140K is a guaranteed base. And then top earners, this is what top earners reported. So RepView is all user reported data. You're in cloud, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service sales right now. Do you recommend staying in cloud or leaving? Cloud's it's not going anywhere. So cloud's in a pretty good space. I would probably stick in it, especially if you're at one of the big companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft. Who's selling the Jedi contract to DoD at AWS? There's a separate public sector team. I'm not on that one. Switched to software sales in May. Couldn't be happier. Congrats, man. Yeah, sales is fun. You're at a BDR at Okta. Beyond learning the product, are there any books or resources you recommend? Yeah, so look at my Discord. My Discord's linked in my bio. There's a resource section. There's a book club section. I'm like really behind on updating it, but I did get a couple of people volunteer to become moderators. I just got to give them like guidelines in terms of how they want to moderate it. But check it out. There's a couple books and resources there. You're an SDR, cold calling for a small company, but not commission. Any company you recommend to grow with? Yeah, check out RepView. So RepView, they have a lot of great data. So like Glassdoor, for example, where Glassdoor really fails is they don't really tell you review data for the sales organizations. They tell it for like the company as a whole. And it doesn't really tell you too much when you're evaluating sales roles, because sometimes companies can be great for engineers and not really great for sales reps. So check out RepView. You can sort companies based on kind of what matters to you. If you want to make the most amount of money, you can go ahead and see what companies are paying the most. If like culture or work-life balance is important, you can sort by that as well. Thoughts on MuleSoft? MuleSoft solid. Tips for person-to-person sales. Not really. Don't really have too many tips there. I would say being personable helps. Small talk definitely helps. You want to build rapport. Take a look at Toastmasters. They're public speaking groups. They have chapters in most cities. How stressful is tech sales? It depends. So in cloud, I think it's less stressful than SaaS, just because there isn't really like a big quarterly push or quarter end push or anything like that. If you're at a high growth startup, it can be fairly stressful, because if you don't perform, they can let you go after 6 months. Switching from HVS to SalesLoft, any significant difference? No, pretty close. Thoughts on startup SDR positions? Be careful. So when you're evaluating startup SDR positions, try to avoid ones where you'd be like the first or second SDR. When you're starting off in tech sales as an SDR, a sales development representative, what you want to be focused on is developing your core skills, your core selling skills, and making sure you're getting like the training and the mentoring that you need to develop those skills. Oftentimes at startups, when you're like the only SDR, the sales director or the sales manager, they already have their hands full with the sales that they're managing, so you're not really going to get like the coaching that you need. So that's why I usually recommend medium to large public companies for new SDRs. Do you think public sector software sales is a good opportunity to take? Yeah, I mean it's a great vertical or a great focus area if that's what you enjoy. Tips on generating leads without too much capital. It depends on the products. I mean, I think industry relevant conferences can be really great for generating leads. Let's see. You have a LinkedIn? I do have a LinkedIn. It's in my bio. Check it out there. What selling methods do I use? I like the Challenger selling methodology. Top 3 things to consider when choosing a job offer. So top 3 things would be, is the product any good? What's the experience level of the leadership team? Is this their first startup? Have they done this before? Have they successfully taken up startup to IPO or acquisition? And then finally, do back channeling and reach out to ex-employees from that company and get feedback from them in terms of whether or not it was actually a good place to work at or not. Because oftentimes the recruiters or even like the hiring managers, they're only going to be focusing on like the positives, and they're not going to be as honest as you would want them to. Thoughts on fintech SDR? Fintech is great. Is Salesforce the best CRM for tech sales company? It's definitely like the top CRM. This isn't live, is it? It is live. I am recording it, and I will post it on my YouTube. How long was I an SDR? I was an SDR. I got promoted within 10 months, so pretty quick. How long does it take to become an AE? It depends. So some companies, they only have SDR, sales development representative, and account executive. So you can go promoted from SDR to AE. Usually it's like 12 to 24 months, that time frame. Larger companies will have an in-between role called inside sales representative. So again, that would be another 12 to 24 months. So the time to become an SDR to an AE at those types of companies would be 2 to 4 years. How long should you wait before moving on from a sales role to another company? You got to evaluate a few different things. You need to evaluate what's the promotion trajectory within the current role. How much money would you make if you got promoted within your current role, within the current company, versus what this external offer looks like. And then also you need to consider, do you have any commission payouts that you're waiting for, large deals in the pipeline? But yeah, it's definitely not an easy answer. How long was I at SDR? I think I touched that one, 10 months. Any tips for Google certification holders without a college degree? Make sure your LinkedIn is updated. If you have like those cloud architect certifications, it's going to get you a lot of attention on LinkedIn. Best CRM softwares for tech sales companies. I mean, I only mostly have experience with Salesforce, but honestly, I don't even like use Salesforce that often, or keep it up to date. Just landed your first SDR job after listening to my advice. Congrats, man. That's awesome. What questions should you ask to your interviewers? Some good questions to ask for interviewers would be, what are some of the traits of the successful reps that you've managed in the past? What are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing within the role? Other standard type of questions would be, is this a greenfield role, or is it a backfill position? If it's a backfill position, why did that person leave the role? Were they promoted? Did they get let go? I think I have a video on a couple other questions to ask as well. Thoughts on Auth0? Auth0's great. Crowdstrike, yes. Do I have a YouTube channel? I do. But it's mostly like my older car stuff, but I've been reposting the TikTok lives on there. Okay. Going through the questions here. Sorry guys, it takes like a little bit of there's a little bit of a lag here. Thoughts on SMB? Pretty much everyone starts in SMB. Nice lighting, thank you. Do you know anything about working at Adobe? I don't, but David Perry, he's on TikTok. He still works at Adobe. He's done sales at Adobe, Amazon, Google, and he has a great book that talks about a lot about like the culture at those different companies. So you can check that out. It's called Game of Sales. You can also feel free to hit him up. Interview with Databricks. Congrats, man. Good luck. Databricks is like a hot company right now. I think they're supposed to go public next year. Have you heard about tech AEs working 2 jobs? Me personally, I haven't, but you could probably do it. I'm sure there are people that do it. They just don't talk about it, as rightfully so. Should you accept an SDR position with Snowflake or Salesforce? Have an offer from both. I would probably go with Snowflake just because you want to evaluate which company would you rather be a sales rep at. Personally, between the two, I think I'd prefer to be a sales rep at Snowflake than Salesforce, although they're both very solid companies. Did you go above quota SDR for all 10 months? I did, yeah. I think as an SDR, my goal was, I'm trying to remember what it was. I think it was like 25 leads worked per week or something, and I aimed to hit 40. So I definitely went above all the metrics there to accelerate. So we had like a leaderboard. There's about 15 SDRs, I think, at the time, and I was performing at the top. Starting a BDR role, but don't start until next year. What should you do in the meantime to best prep? I'd say some good things to focus on as you're preparing for your upcoming BDR role, and congrats on that, by the way. I would say would be working on writing, presentation skills, and public speaking. Those are all great skills. You don't need to really focus on like the tech or anything. You're going to learn that on the job, but those like soft skills are going to be super important within the role. Ever consider going into the CSM route over AE? Briefly, although the way that it works at most, like a lot of the bigger companies, is you end up earning like the same base salary for different roles within tech sales, including customer success manager and account executive, but your commission or your bonus is a lot higher as an AE. So purely just because of that, I wouldn't really go to CSM. Do you need coding lessons for software sales? You do not. Switched to tech sales a couple months ago about hardware. Yeah, I started off in hardware. I was at National Instruments, then I made the switch to software. It's a good career move to switch to SDR roles from your Series C SaaS company to Series F FinTech. It could be. You need to look at, usually I don't recommend moving from company to company as an SDR. Really what you want to do is you want to get promoted to an AE first and then move companies if you do switch companies. So that way it's not like more of like a lateral shift. What's a good MBA emphasis for tech sales? Entrepreneurship. I did entrepreneurship and business data analytics. Best advice to get into tech sales. Best advice if you're still in college is definitely get internships and then a network as well. You utilize your alumni network. Try to get referrals when you can. That's going to go a long way. At AWS, where and why are most of your deals lost? So my two customers, they're mostly all in on AWS. So me personally, where most of my deals are lost is when priorities have shifted for the customer, just from going from one project to another. Although I did have one project where it was a code development and they had a contractual obligation with one of their end customers to actually deploy the end solution on another cloud provider based on the customer's contract that they had. So that was kind of like out of my control. Does the 4-year cliff at Amazon matter at AWS? I would say it probably does because the stock schedule is back weighted. You get like 5% of your stock in year 1, 15 in year 2, 40 in year 3 and year 4. So the one downside with Amazon is the way that they do their stock refreshers. So at Google, after you've been working for a year, every year they give you more stock on another 4-year vesting schedule based on your level and your performance. At Amazon, they do the same, but they consider the stock appreciation of your existing stock to determine whether or not you should get more stock. So what that means is you could be in a position where if Amazon stock saw like a significant amount of growth, you actually wouldn't get a stock refresher grant. So in that case, I think there is more of a 4-year cliff at Amazon than at other places. OTE, just over 300 right now. How to get a Sdr position without a college degree? Great question. So I've got a playlist, how to get into tech sales. So, and you can look on my Discord. So I've got some free resources in terms of like how to build a sales focused resume. So what you'll want to do is you want to make sure you have your LinkedIn fully built out, get your resume updated with a sales focus, meaning even if you're not in sales positions, you should have like metrics for all of the accomplishments that you've done in the past. Sales interviewers really like to see like numbers, percentages, hard numbers. Then the other option, if like let's say after 3 to 4 weeks of like following my advice and you're not able to get any traction, that's when you could take a look at a program like Pre-Hired or Pre-Sales Academy. Those are two like tech sales type boot camps that are in my bio. They don't charge anything up front. They do kind of like an income share type agreement where you don't pay anything until you land a role, paying at least I think $70,000 for both of them. And then you can get through these programs in about 2 to 3 months. So for example, with the Pre-Sales Academy one, they have their next class is starting in January, and come April you would be like in a tech sales role. What's the best decision to get into high-paying sales? Are there any AEs that don't travel? Yeah, there are. Right now there isn't that much travel, unless like you're running pretty big accounts like I am, so I'm starting to do more travel. But right now pretty much everything's remote. But I would expect to have some. So if you look at inside sales representatives, those types of roles typically won't have any travel at all. Databricks interview tomorrow, any tips? Yeah, make sure you can speak to everything on your resume. Make sure you know the background of the interviewers that you're talking to so you have good questions. Make sure you have really good follow-up questions at the end of the interviews. And then do your research on Databricks themselves, who their competitors are within the space. Does it make sense to skip SDR and go straight to AE? Usually not, unless you have like very specific and in-depth industry experience. You kind of want to get that SDR experience first. Thoughts on SMB, Salesforce, AE? Salesforce is a solid company to be at. Best way to get from SaaS to cloud sales once you get some experience, referrals. Do I have more content on YouTube? No, I've been meaning to do some like longer form YouTube videos, but it just takes a lot of time. That's why I kind of prefer, that's why I like TikTok. Crowdstrike, yeah, one of my former sales directors that I worked with very closely, she's at Crowdstrike. They're doing very well. How long was I at SDR before I got promoted? I think I touched on that one, 10 months. Oh, questions just updated. Can you achieve similar numbers in the UK? Fairly close, although in the UK and in Europe, you could expect 30 to 40% less than US numbers. Thoughts on Nielsen? Former CRO at the last startup worked there. He had good things to say about Nielsen. You start your MBA next month, but really want to break into tech sales and delay your master's. I mean, if you do, it's not a bad idea. If you do land like a tech sales role, you know, you can always put the MBA on hold. How quickly does your quota increase when you meet numbers for several months in a row? So it depends. Sometimes they'll keep quota the same, and then what they do is they pull accounts out of your territory. So once you've signed those accounts, they'll move them over to the account management team. So like they might keep quotas the same. Usually, unless like you're keeping accounts at the enterprise level, quotas usually stay between 2 and 3 million a year. What's been up with AWS the last 2 weeks? Good question. Good question. Yeah, the outage was definitely interesting. Is Salesforce a good company? Yeah, Salesforce is a great company. What do you think about the revenue intelligence space? I don't know too much about that space, unfortunately. Began a SDR role at DS. How quickly should you be looking to move up and outwards? I would say, you know, try to get promoted within 12 months, 12 to 18 months. You have a background in logistics sales and mortgage sales. Do you think you will be able to make it in tech? Yes, definitely. I don't see why I would hold you back. AE Path. AE Path at the Series C company is about 2 years SDR. Is the industry average? Yeah, probably. I would say, like, yeah, when you look at the average is probably closer to 2 years, but then of course you're going to get people that get promoted 12 to 18 months. Because the thing is, what they want to do is they want to see consistent performance. Did you get an MBA to accelerate your track to VP? I mostly got my MBA just because I wanted to increase my business acumen, because I talk a lot with executives. And then also, it was relatively cheap, at least for me. Like Google at the time, they paid for like 2/3 of it. So I got my MBA for like $7,000 out of pocket. So at that price point, I figured, why not get the title, and then it, you know, gives me some credibility and reduces any like doubts that people might have if I try to get promoted. Any recommendations for Android developer? Check out DevSlopes. I've been in medical device sales for 3 years. Should you switch to tech sales? Depends. I mean, if you're on a good career path within medical device sales and you're happy, I would probably stick down that path. I thought about medical device sales, but it's pretty hard to break into compared to tech. You have an interview with Inside AE for Amazon. How do you ace it? Know the leadership principles very well. Have at least 2 experiences for each one. Don't reuse experiences between interviews. And if you do that, you should do well. Do you need any certs for this? No. Why software over hardware? Good question. So the companies grow faster, bigger profit margins, and then they pay more. So those would be the main reasons. What tool do you use? 40 per week is insane. I don't use too many tools right now. Pretty much just like Salesforce and Quip. Because right now I only have 2 accounts, so I'm not doing 40 per week anymore. Do tech companies start hiring in January? They're hiring actually now. I mean, they were doing a lot of hiring from like October through end of November, and things start to slow down in December because of the holidays, but they'll pick up again in January. Currently SDR, curious, wants to know if another company would hire you as an AE without AE experience. It'd be a tough sell. It can be possible, but they're going to want to see closing experience. Thank you, Tom. Love the channel. Thanks for the love, Tyler. Are these AE roles? Yeah, these are enterprise AE roles. You Appreciate your videos. You accepted an SDR position at ServiceNow in January. Congrats, man. ServiceNow is a solid company. Can you transition from tech sales roles to more traditional marketing ones? Yeah, definitely. Once you're in like these bigger corporate companies, people move around quite a bit. After like 2-3 years within like a single role, you should either be getting promoted or going into different roles. So for example, my sales colleagues at Google, I'm still like pretty close with, only a few of them are still in sales. Other ones have gone into business development, they've gone into marketing, they've gone into like the more technical side. I think one of them went into like product management too. What about working at Okta or Slack? Both are solid too. Advice for me: you started work in ad tech sales at TikTok. What should you do your first month to do well? Ask a lot of questions. Don't assume that things are being done in the most optimal way possible. So ask a lot of questions. Spend a lot of time networking. Know all the different resources that you can pull in on deals. HashiCorp is solid. I was interviewing there, I think like 2 years ago. Very impressive product set that they have, and excellent growth. What do you think the next big tech company will be? Somewhere to get in early with stock options. Great question. A lot of the ones that I know of right now, they're in like fairly late stages, like Databricks, for example. ByteDance, I'm pretty bullish on ByteDance, but there's some questionable things going on with what the Chinese government is doing with blocking companies from going public. So if you want to know where the next big tech companies are, take a look at Series A and Series B startups that are funded by like tier 1 VC firms like Sequoia and Excel. That's going to give you the best option for identifying places that you can get in early with a good amount of stock options. But realistically, unless like you're coming in at a more senior level, you're not really going to get that much in terms of stock options at these smaller companies, at these startups. How legit is RepView? What's preventing people from floating numbers? It's pretty legit, and what's preventing people from floating numbers is that it's anonymous, so there isn't really like a need for people to fake data for the most part. Best upcoming sales orgs companies, in my opinion, for SDRs, for AEs to target. Kind of depends on if you want the startup experience or the bigger company experience. Oh, updating here. What tools do I use to network besides LinkedIn? Pretty much just LinkedIn, and then I do a lot of networking internally within my customers, and then I use that to connect with other prospects. But Discover.org is another tool that I'll use. If you're a territory AE, how can you move to mid-market? Start networking with the manager. Make it clear that you want to move to mid-market. I would say that's the biggest thing. You need to like take ownership of your career growth. Your TikTok is one of the best. Got to ask, COVID or a cold? Get well. It's a cold, fortunately. I did get a test. Got something over the weekend. It was like traveling because I was in Detroit and then in Vegas the week before. It's a lot of like flying and everything. I think I'm on the tail end. Facebook SDR. I know they have an SDR team, I think, on their ad side, but I don't have too much experience. Am I a loser if you're just a sales engineer? Should you become a district sales manager? I don't think you're a loser. I was a sales engineer twice. It's a fun role too. You don't get as much of like the sales pressure. And I mean, you could stay as a sales engineer. You don't have to go on the sales side. Tech sales and construction sales. Would you have a shot at these companies without a degree? Yep, especially if you build up. Like, they really don't care about your degree anymore. It's all about your prior work experience. So if you work your way up as a SDR at a software company, go up to an AE, start closing big deals, like, there wouldn't be any question in terms of whether or not they would hire you or not, just based on your college degree. Do you build close relationships with your clients? Yes, especially at the level that I'm at with just like 2 large accounts. Building those close relationships is actually super key. ServiceNow versus MongoDB. Which should you join as an SDR? So assuming that the pay is equivalent, I would probably lean MongoDB just because I think they have more upside than ServiceNow. Do you need a cert? No, you don't need a cert. Do you know about any sales positions in crypto? I don't, but Coco NFT, who's here, she might, or they might. Can you transition to tech sales from high ticket sales, no college degree? You absolutely can. Check out my playlist, get into tech sales. It's on TikTok, on my profile. Currently SDR, after a year and a half. Would another company hire you as an AE with no AE experience? Probably not. Usually they're going to ask for closing experience. Should you write a cover letter even if it's not a requirement on the job applications? I probably wouldn't spend time writing a cover letter. Most people aren't going to read it. Crowdstrike is great. Qualtrics is great. Yep, I used to sell into Qualtrics. MBA, I do have an MBA. 4 years of experience in energy sales, trying to transition to tech. Any experience? Yeah, try to like leverage your energy sales experience. So there's a lot, there's a good amount of like tech startups that are, for example, focused within the energy space. So anytime you're trying to do like a career pivot, I always recommend trying to like use something from your prior experiences when you're pivoting, so that way you're not starting completely from scratch. You've been in sales for 15 years now in medical tech. Nice. Telecom BDR started 110K OTE. Nice, yeah. I heard telecom can be solid. Thoughts on Box? I've heard that they're facing some headwinds, Box, but the cloud space is always a good one to be in. I did everything Thomas said over the past couple months. Oh, oops. Where did it go? I got a job at Advanced Science this week. Yeah, congrats, man. Remember you were telling me that. Didn't know Discover.org still existed. Yeah, they still do, surprisingly. Do you think an MBA is helpful if you're already an AE? I think so, although I wouldn't, if you're an AE, I wouldn't spend like a ton of money on an MBA. Like the Illinois MBA program, that's the one that I did. I had a really good experience. It was only like, if you don't have any tuition reimbursement through your employer, it's like 20 grand all in. You can get it done in 2 years. Got an AE offers a BDR, but you're going to stick with your current role. Nice. Yeah, I mean, you got to weigh the options of staying within the current company versus starting from scratch in another one. Should you still spend time cold calling, emailing, even though you have an SDR? I recommend, like, if you have like some like key contacts that you really want to work on and develop, save those for yourself for cold emailing and calling, and then farm out the rest to the SDR that you have. How much is a single sale? It depends. At the enterprise software sales level, usually these larger deals will be in the millions of dollars per year. How many sales a year do? You work in tech at a startup and you want to make money. So right now, like my quota is like close to 90 million, but that's on the very high end. What mindset do you need coming into a new role, since this isn't like an ordinary job? You definitely need a growth mindset. You're going to be learning a ton. You need grit. You need to be consistent. You need to be personable. You need to ask a lot of questions. You need to be a quick learner. You need to like learning new things about your customer's business, the industry. Would you consider jumping to Web3 crypto DAO? I would consider it. My current role is global account manager. How much does your salary go up every year? It depends. So I think it's like 3 to 4% if you're not moving up levels. Can you move to the middle of nowhere as long as you have internet connection and work from home? You can in most cases. After hitting L5 at AWS from L4, do you recommend pivoting somewhere, maybe to max comp? If so, where? So I'm a 6 at AWS, so the jump actually from 5 to 6 is pretty significant too. So I would probably try to go for that promo before pivoting somewhere else. And in terms of like maxing out comp, AWS is like kind of at the upper end. So if you can move up at AWS, there really aren't too many other places to go. Do you think Amazon should be broken up? I do think that I don't know if it should be broken up, but I do think that they should separate out like the cloud business from the retail business. I think we're going to start to see, I mean, especially as Amazon's like ramping up the retail side and with transportation and everything, I think we're going to start to see some more attention from the government in terms of whether or not there might be too much of a anti-competitive behavior. I'm not sure, but it would be great, I think, if they did spun out AWS from the rest of the Amazon, because the valuation would be incredible. So right now, Amazon's not quite valued as a tech company. On the retail side, they don't make nearly as much profit as they do from the tech side. So when you're looking at like revenue multiples for valuation perspective, the retail side does drag it down a little bit. Am I underpaid? You make $16.50 as a full cycles rep at Paycheck. I would probably say $16.50 is pretty low for full cycle sales rep. You got COVID and now missing all this week. One of the most crucial years, you're bugging out. Yeah, that's rough, because like if you don't get stuff done this week, nothing's closing for this year. So sorry to hear that, man. I caught something over the weekend. I'm still like partially out of commission. How do you get past the ATS systems for online applications? Overqualified, can't get a call back. So there's a few good resources out there for like ATS, resume, templates. But if you really want like a more of like a turnkey solution, look at like Resume Assassin. I've actually used her twice to like edit my resume and my LinkedIn. And I think it helped a lot. That one's linked in my bio. AE versus sales engineer path. So two very good paths. There are some similarities, some differences. So you're both on the sales side, both on pre-sales, working with customers up until the deal is actually signed. Sales engineer is more technical, lower potential upside as a sales engineer, but it is more of a stable role versus an AE, which can have up years and down years. Usually sales engineer is more of a flat organization, meaning you might have like a sales engineer manager, and that's about it in some cases. For AE or sales, there's going to be a lot more levels for you to move up to, and there's just going to be a lot more positions in general. That said, sales engineers are in very high demand as well as experienced AEs. So it really kind of depends on if you want to be more technical or do you want to be more focused on the business side. As an AE, you do have to have, I feel like you have to have better time management skills. There's more reporting and dashboarding that you're doing as an AE versus a sales engineer. Thoughts on recruiting tech sales on the AE level? I've heard recruiting can pay very well. What are the most important skills for sales ops? For sales ops, I would say, data analytics is pretty important for sales ops. And then also just being able to understand the sales process as a whole, identifying where the bottlenecks are, and then having a focus on making the sales organization as smooth as possible. I think that's what would be most beneficial for sales ops. Thoughts on Blackline? I'm not too sure about them. Palo Alto Networks, is that a good place to work as a BDR? Yeah, definitely. They're a top cybersecurity company. What's the healthy percentage of reps who hit quota? I'd say like 60, 70%, probably closer to 70%. How do you get started as an SDR? Look at my playlist, how to get into tech sales on TikTok. You can also look at like tech sales boot camps, like pre-hired. That one's listed in my bio. Just got a job at IBM. Does anyone know about the culture? So IBM's one of those like older enterprise companies, but they've been really trying to innovate themselves and trying to catch up within the cloud space. So I've heard that the culture has shifted quite a bit there in a positive manner. For sales of self-driving trucks, what companies would you suggest? Rivian and Tesla. Best sites to find these jobs: LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, you're going to see a lot of them. RepView, you'll see a lot of them there as well. You can look at like built in, and then your city. So they have like built in NYC, built in Chicago. Thoughts on CDW? So CDW is like a reseller. They're a pretty good one to work for. Adobe, I've heard good things too. What would you say is a decent salary for entry level base salary for SDR? So for SDRs, I've been doing a lot of like offer reviews for people. Lately, I've been seeing like actually a good amount of offers that are in the 100 to 110K OTE range, and those have like a 60 to 70K base. So I would say if you get to like a 70K base as a SDR, that'd be pretty solid. So what's the difference between sales engineer? So sales engineers, they're focused on the technical win. So they do the demos, they do the technical deep dives. They'll fill out the RFPs, or the request for proposals. The sales rep, they're responsible for the full cycle of sales. So they'll be involved with finding the opportunities, doing the stakeholder mapping, managing the opportunity from start to finish, doing the presentations, the pitches, doing the actual like negotiating, contracting. So one of the bigger differences is sales engineers don't have as much of like the quota pressure as the sales reps do, and then the trade-off is you'll get a higher commission as a sales rep versus a sales engineer. How many ops are in my pipeline? I think like 15. Does degree pedigree matter? For the first role, maybe. After that, no. Thoughts on Datadog? I've heard good things about Datadog. When do you see myself retiring? Oh, let's see. Can you do tech sales part-time? You make 130K as a network engineer, but you want a second remote job. They don't really have part-time roles, but you could probably just go for a full-time one and see if you can manage that workload. Typical career path for SDR. Typical career path is you go from a sales development representative, and then 12 to 24 months you get promoted to an inside sales rep. Another, I would say, 18 to 24 months you get promoted to an SMB, small and medium business account executive, and then from there you go to mid-market, and then enterprise, and then strategic or global accounts, and then you have like at any point you could go into like a manager path, and then within manager you have manager, director, VP of sales. At 50K base is new AE, is it worth to stay for a year? Yeah, I would say it's probably worth it. How's pre-hired select which company to connect you with in the 12 weeks? So they have like a company, they have a network of partner companies that they do sourcing for. But you could also interview with like any other company too. When do you see myself retiring? I don't see myself like fully retiring ever. I like working, I like hustling. But in terms of like working like a corporate 9 to 5, I could probably see myself stopping that in the next 4 or 5 years, potentially sooner. But I do want to start my own startup. That's one of my goals. How long would you say it took for you to be comfortable doing demos? I would say like at each of the companies that I've been at, it probably took me like 4 or 5 months before I got super comfortable with doing demos and those initial customer calls. Opinion on people bashing Time for giving Elon Person of the Year. Time always gets bashed for that stuff, so I try not to pay attention to the noise. I think it's pretty funny. Finish final round with SalesLoft SDR. Thanks for your help. Congrats, man. That's awesome. Good luck. Hopefully you get the offer from SalesLoft. Where do you apply? Look at my bio. Top companies for SDR, BDR. I did a video on it. Check that one out. Thoughts on cold calling versus cold emailing. Most people aren't picking up the phone anymore. It still doesn't hurt to leave a voicemail though and try if you get someone on the phone. 45K base, 65K OT, SalesLoft SDR. Is that good? It's not bad. It's pretty solid. Most positions are going to be paying 60 to 70K OTE. You can always ask for them to bump it up a bit. You usually don't want to take the first offer. You're an AE at SEMrush. Tech sales, love it. Yeah, tech sales is fun. What monitor do I use? I have an Alienware 34-inch. Oh, I guess you can't really see it. I have it in my videos, though. It's a 34-inch ultra-wide, 144 monitor. Do you know anything about Elastic? I do. I don't know anyone there. Actually, I interviewed there like 2 years ago. But solid company to work for. I mean, lots of questions I could ask there. Thoughts on HubSpot, DocuSign, both good companies to be at. How's the work-life balance at AWS? Very good. So at least on my team, my managers, they've always promoted good work-life balance. They don't want people working nights, weekends. They're constantly checking in. I'd say most people are working 40 hours or less. Bro, you name drop RepView in your interview, and the person knew the founder of RepView. Nice, yeah. So like Darren, I'm guessing probably they knew. Let me get on live. Sure, you can get on live. Max. I think I have like guests pulled up. Guest request, right? Yeah, I've got a guest request. Oh, maybe I had it turned off.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Max. Oh,
Hey,
let me
I'm just like, I'm just like
disconnect my mic because
mad
my
random, but dude, I'm a
oh hey,
fan. I'm a fan.
thanks.
I'm a
Yeah,
fan.
thanks for the support and hopping on.
Yeah, man. I like to. I'm just gonna be forward. Like, so I'm a marketer, and like,
Yeah.
whenever I see influencers that are like cheap stocks that I know are gonna be huge, like I always try to like, nothing like weird. Just like I try to become like friends with them. Try to like
Yeah,
connect
yeah.
with them because I love like one of my favorite things to do is become friends with influencers like before they like fucking explode. Dude, I'm telling you, bro, give yourself 12 to 24 months, man. You're gonna be you might be leaving your sales job, bro. If you understand the online business game, if you
Yeah.
understand the online business game, bro,
Mm-hmm.
trust me, man. Like 300K a year doing sales is nothing. It's nothing.
Oh yeah. I mean,
So
I've
like,
got yeah, much bigger goals than that. Yeah. So
sure,
yeah, like the corporate roles that they only get you so far unless you get like really lucky with like options. But
yeah,
definitely if you want to make like a lot of money, you pretty much have to
dude,
like have your own thing.
yeah, man. I mean, like the people I know who make the biggest bucks, I don't work with them directly, but the
Mm-hmm.
people who make the biggest bucks are people who own agencies themselves.
Oh
So
yeah.
if I'm a marketer, but like one thing I've always tried to do, but I just never got my head around it, is build a closers agency or like a sales agency for like
Mm,
for people who need like super flexible sales staff. So like
yeah.
AWS like wouldn't need like there's like such a huge demand for there's so many like internet companies mostly that need salespeople that are very high quality for like
Oh
five to
yes.
ten.
I was actually looking at that.
Mhm.
Let's connect. We might be able to do something there.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
All right.
yeah. Sure.
Cool. Yeah. Send me a message and then let's set up some time to dig into that because that's actually something I was thinking about. Exactly that.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. You want me to get off or
Oh. Well. Yeah. I just need to do my wrap up here.
cool? I'm
Um.
off.
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
problem. So I'll DM you.
Yes.
Got you, bro. Good luck.
Cool. Thanks. All right, guys. Cool. So tips for BDR at MindTickle. But actually, no, that idea that's actually something I was working on or doing like a placement agency or something. But yes, MindTickle. So the tips for MindTickle are going to be the same as like any other BDR. So get focused on getting promoted within like 12 to 18 months. Know exactly how your performance is being measured. Do some internal networking. and then focus on developing those like soft skills. Yeah, Gary Vee. I like, people hate on Gary Vee, but I like his presentation style and his cadence and the energy level that he brings to his videos. I do like the parodies that people do, but that's something I'm trying to like level up on my content. Did I answer the question about Elastic? Yeah, so the question about Elastic was, do I know anyone there? I'll look at my network because I did interview at Elastic a few years ago. I remember being impressed with what I saw when I was researching the company. Ever sold in the public sector? I haven't personally, although I've had colleagues that have sold in the public sector. It's usually separate from commercial. Biggest tips there are going to be just understanding the sales process. It's very different. There's a very specific process in terms of RFPs, deals move a bit slower. Oh, soft skills like what? So soft skills would be writing, presenting, public speaking. Those are like 3 big skills that are definitely good to develop as a BDR. Starting a BDR as a startup, small team. Yeah, kind of what I was just touching on there. Again. Making under 50K in construction sales, been in sales for 11 years. Congrats, man. How can you negotiate a higher base for SDR? Best way is to get competing offers for sure. Get competing offers, then you can negotiate a higher base salary. Do a mock cold call, please, real quick. I might do like a video on it right now, but I need something else to build off of in terms of who the customer is, what the product is, some examples there. Tell us more about this idea. Companies want to hire quality salespeople. You think staffing agency? Yeah, staffing agency. Something along those lines. So especially for like entry-level reps, it's really hard for companies to find entry-level reps because a lot of the people that have experience, they're not going for entry-level positions anymore. And the people that would do really well in entry-level sales roles, they don't know that these roles exist. So that's where like staffing agencies can come into play. What's the path for customer success? So the path with customer success would be moving to, like, there's usually individual contributor levels. So you'll be, for example, Amazon, your customer success manager, senior customer success manager, then they have like a group manager, and it kind of moves on from there. What staffing agencies would you recommend? Bets Recruiting is a pretty good one. About a sales-enabled solution. Prospect is a cloud company selling SaaS. Sales enablement solution. So like an actual cold call. Man, it's been like a little while since I did like actual cold calling, like a lot of volume. But it'd be something like along the lines of, hey, this is Thomas from company XYZ, reaching out. Because I noticed that you guys are a cloud company. Let me see, what do you got here? So I need to like work on the pitch. Actually, I think we have a couple like mock templates within the Discord. But realistically, some of the big tips when you're cold calling is you only have like a few seconds on the phone to like hook them. So you want to be pretty short and to the point. Quick intro in terms of like who you are, who you're calling from, and then what you're actually selling and like the benefit that that's going to provide. So for sales enablement software, you can maybe a good way would be to ask them if they have if they've been facing like productivity challenges within their sales organization, and if they'd be open to exploring solutions. Are there sales roles that don't require closing experience? So the entry-level roles, sales development representative, business development representative, typically don't require any closing experience. Will other sales experience allow you to go straight into AE without being SDR? Potentially, especially if, like for medtech, if you're looking at like healthcare startups, tech startups, you could leverage that medtech experience to go straight into an AE role. For moving into ISR role, what is the typical package you should negotiate? So moving internally versus externally, usually there isn't too much negotiating that you can do. So I'm assuming that that's probably what you're doing in that case. So usually what happens is they'll bump up your base like 10, 15% if you're moving up levels, and then your commission rate will go up a little bit. Any tips for going straight to AE role? You're going to need, again, some solid industry experience, domain level experience to get into the an AE role. What's the typical OTE for as a DGR AWS? So for like level 4, I think it's like 90 to 100K. I'll have to look. It depends on the location. Yes, internal move. Yeah, so internal moves, usually it's a pretty set increase that you can't really negotiate too much on. Best way to get leads that are solid, referrals. Referrals go a long way. So once you close business, have your customers ask for recommendations in terms of other individuals or other companies that they could talk to. That's going to give you some super solid leads. Another way to get super solid leads, in my experience, has been like conferences. Conferences have been usually pretty good. Any tips for moving from software dev to software sales and how to use that to your advantage? Yeah, I would say as a software developer, you'd probably be a good fit for a sales engineer or pre-sales role. Those roles will be more technical and they do value the software development experience. Will other are the only 250K SESA roles at Fang? No, most of like the big or like the larger startups will pay 250K plus for enterprise SEs, SAs. What was the agency called? So this is just an idea we were talking through. There's no name for it yet. Why did you get an MBA? I got an MBA just to up-level my business acumen. And it was also relatively cheap for me. Vendition does that. Free staffing agency for BDR, SDR roles. Yep, they do that. Definitely use a tech role for pre-sales solutions architect. Yeah, so like, what other sales options are there after being an SDR outside a typical SDR AE role? So there's a couple different paths. You can move into sales operations. You can move into like on the account management side. You can move into customer success. You can move into sales enablement. You can move into more technical roles like sales engineer or a solutions architect. You can move into an SDR management type role. Lots of different options there. You can move into marketing. I've seen people do that. Product specialists. Can a recent college grad reasonably get an entry-level role? Yeah, they can. A lot of these companies will have specific openings for new college grads too. Any leverage in salary negotiating power if you have cloud practitioner certification at entry level? I would say it helps. The best salary negotiation tool that you can use is to have multiple offers, competing offers. So does that mean you recommend doing the SDR transition outward? I would say it's pretty hard to get an ISR position if you only have worked as an SDR. So get to the ISR role first internally, and then you could start to explore maybe what other external offers look like. How tough is it to get a tech sales job with 45K base pay remotely without a college degree? It's not too hard. Pretty much every SDR position is going to pay at least that much. Everything's pretty much remote right now. Does AWS cover your MBA? Google cover yours, but does AWS do the same? I don't think AWS does. They have different tuition reimbursement policies if you're salaried employee versus hourly. If you're hourly, if you're a warehouse worker, they'll cover like pretty much any college or additional education. I don't think they have any reimbursement for salaried folks right now. But sales engineers make less. So usually sales engineers have a little bit of a higher base salary, but the commission is lower. So usually sales engineers are like on a 70-30 split. Sales reps will be on a 50-50. So what that means is if you have a really good year, you're going to make more money as a sales rep. And then also usually the OTE So usually OTEs for like enterprise sales engineers at this level would be like 250K, and you can see it's higher for the reps. You might have missed it, but what's my role at AWS? So I'm within the sales organization, strategic and global accounts. I'm a global account manager, and I manage two large accounts. That's about joining a recent Series A MarTech company. No churn, high NDR. Could be solid. I would ask questions in terms of like what type of training and support are you going to get. I was assuming you're joining as a SDR. If you're joining as an AE, there's less risk, I think. Does an offer from a different industry help pharma? Yeah, it could definitely help. Amazon does have an MBA reimbursement program. Yeah, I think like if it's like directly related to your job, or if you can make the case with your manager, they can reimburse most things. But I haven't looked into it, mostly because I already had my MBA by the time I joined Amazon. Current ISR at Workday SAP for 1 year. Can you move out into an AE role without being an AE first? It's pretty hard to do it, mostly because when you're interviewing for other AE roles, they're going to be asking for prior closing experience. So that's why I usually recommend people, or almost suggest people get promoted first to an AE or an ISR before they start leaving their current company as an SDR. Are these OTEs? Yep. What's the probability of getting a sales job? Pretty high. I mean, if you put in the effort, I think most people can land entry-level roles, especially if you do one of the boot camps. Their placement rates are like almost like 90% or whatever. So if you put in the effort, you can land one of these roles. Do you recommend any boot camps for getting your first tech sales job? Yeah, there's two that I recommend, Pre-Hired and Pre-Sales Academy. Both of those are in my bio. There's a bunch of them out there, but those are just two that I recommend. Nice, you've been working with a counterpart at a large oil and gas company. You was at reInvent. Yeah, I was at reInvent too, although I only stayed for 2 nights just because it was already too much at that point, but a lot of networking with my customers there. Is that background for Enterprise AE or SDR? This is Enterprise AE. Your opinion on the debate between SDR and AE and which one is more challenging? I'm going to say SDR is more challenging, or AE is more challenging. SDR is more of a grind, but you're doing almost like the same thing like every day, versus AE is more strategic. So, and also AE can be one of those roles too where you can put in a lot of hours and not get anywhere, versus as an SDR, it is a bit of like a numbers game. So as long as you put in like the right amount of like activity and volume, you should be able to hit your goals. AE is a little different there, more difficult. Where do you work? I work at Amazon Web Services. Where do you find sales engineer jobs? Most of them are going to be on LinkedIn. Can we be located in another company when we apply? You can, but you have to be upfront if you're going to need sponsorship or anything. How do you like the AWS org and payments? Thinking about transitioning within the next 12 months, 18 months? Pretty good. I mean, it's pretty positive. So very similar culture to the one that I experienced at Google when I worked at GCP sales. Everyone's like super friendly, helpful. I don't see like any like cutthroat behavior or anything like that. So only positive things for me to say. Is the AE role comp dependent on the territory you're assigned? Luck involved? Part of it. Yeah, I mean, having like a good set of accounts can make a difference. So, like your commission is all based on the territory that you have, for the most part. How fast can you transition from SDR to AE? You can do it in a year or even like a little sooner. I did it in like 10 months, but I really grinded when I first got in. Usually I would say it's 12 to 24 months. Is it tough to find entry-level roles with insurance benefits? Pretty much all of them are going to have pretty solid benefits, including insurance. You work for a different software company, and all of your answers you agree with 100%. Thanks for the confirmation. Yeah, I try to be. I've worked at 3 pretty large companies. and then 2 startups. So I have like a wide range of experiences that I can work off of. Is it true AEs bribe the SDRs for good leads? You know, I haven't heard of that, although I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in some places, especially if AEs are pulling leads from like a pool. So at one of the companies I worked at, when SDRs would create opportunities, they would give them to reps that already had like assigned territory, so they already knew where it was coming to or who would take it. Other companies that I've seen, they don't give specific territories for AEs, and it's like pretty broad, and there's like overlapping territories, and that's when I could see maybe some of that bribing behavior coming out. When you say you transition to AE in 10 months, do you mean the ISR closing role? Yeah, ISR closing role. Yep. Any big deals in Q4 keeping you up? You look a little more tired than usual. No, nothing keeping me up. In cloud, they don't really have like end of year, end of quarter push or anything. I did get sick over the weekend, and I'm still recovering, so that's where I'm looking like a little bit more tired. You got into pre-sales because of me. You just accepted an offer, 130K OT. Congrats, man. That's awesome. Pre-sales is a fun role. So these were great questions. I just looked at the time. It's 10:17 Chicago time. So I gave you guys an extra 17 minutes bonus. So what is pre-sales? I've got a few videos on this. So that's the pre-sales engineering role. Check it out. It's more of a technical role. It's still within the sales organization. You work with the sales reps. You're doing like the demos, the presentations, the technical deep dives. So check that one out too. I've got a few videos on it. But thanks everyone. Thanks for the great questions. Really enjoyed the engagement here. Really enjoyed the support and hearing the success stories. I'm going to be posting this recording on YouTube later. If there's anything that you missed, if you want to rewatch it, feel free to check that out. Let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to DM me on Instagram or LinkedIn. My LinkedIn's also in my bio. And then 2 programs that you might want to check out if you want to get into tech sales. So Pre-Sales Academy, they actually just posted here in the chat. They're one of the programs that I recommend. They prepare you for the pre-sales, sales engineering type role. Their next cohort starts in January. Applications are closing this Friday. You don't pay anything up front. They have extremely high placement rates. So if you join this one and you get in, you'll be in a sales engineer role by April of next year. So pretty awesome. Another one that I recommend is Pre-Hired. They're in my bio too. They're for people that want to get into the entry-level sales role. If you're having trouble getting traction, trying to land one of those like SDR roles, another good program to take a look at. But again, I do these lives every weekend. This one was sponsored by RepView. So RepView, again, they're like Glassdoor, but for tech sales compensation data. So really great place to look at when you're trying to like vet out which company do you want to accept an offer at. They do a lot of in-depth information in terms of like percentage of reps hitting quota, reviews on like the company culture, all that fun stuff there. But thanks again, everyone. Have a great night.